I'll give some more background. So Peanut has a wonderful book that brought me a lot of comfort that is called The Little Handbook of Pet Grief Support, How to Help Someone Mourning the Loss of a Pet.
Oh, Growlies. Hold on a second.
We got lots of dogs over here.
Let's pause for a moment. Sorry. 1 second. We're doing this. Peppery. We should have been prepared with 2 dogs, but such is life. 1 second. We got this. Okay.
I'm getting cuddles in the meantime.
Yes. Cuddle break.
Peanut's just adding her website in, so it'll be pinned so that you guys can have easy access to that if you need it.
I'm trying to type and spell at the same time. Okay. Why didn't I think of this while we were getting cuddles? Okay. Let me see if that worked. Okay. And okay. Now, if we post this,
Yep.
then can we pin it?
Yeah, pin.
Oh,
There we go.
Okay, sorry about this.
We're learning on the job.
We were prepared, and then we were multitasking with
Yes.
the cute pups. It's too cute. Too cute. We can't compete.
But so you guys know, that is the petbereavementcounseling.com. That's Pina's website. And then this is her book. You can get a virtual copy on Amazon, or you can get the hard copy as well. I have both.
You actually were the first one to order the hard copy because the virtual came out last year. And then by the time Ginny and I met and she ordered it, she was the first one to order it.
Yay! And it is wonderful. And if you're going through this hard time, or you know someone who is, check out the book. It's really game-changing.
It'll be on the side. So what we decided for today is to do a deep dive on chapter 9. We're not going to be able to cover the whole book in an hour. Chapter 9, the reason we thought about this is because through our sessions, it became apparent, and also through a lot of what I see out there with a lot of sorry for your loss, and a lot of white knuckling that people do when there is a diagnosis, is I wish that I could have provided those tools when the diagnosis came.
Yes.
And made that transition a little bit softer.
And it's really difficult too, and I struggled with this because we got Levi's, he had congestive heart failure. We got that diagnosis about 2 years before he passed, but we had no idea how much time we had with him. And vets told us that they didn't know, but they thought we had weeks when we had a bit longer than that. But people, when you try to express this feeling and how sad you're feeling, people often say, well, he's still with you now. Don't be sad now. But you know, I found myself for 2 years white knuckling it instead of being able to be present with my dog while I still had him. And Pina has some great tools to be able to help shift some of the verbiage to make it better, among other things, so that you really know how to get through that difficult time with your pet.
Yeah, and the intention would be for us to give you value today, to give you, if you're a pet parent and your pet is well, if you're a pet parent and your pet just passed, or your pet just got diagnosed, or maybe you know someone, a loved one that's going through it. The intention is for us to provide value in whatever place you might be. And then you can also save this, because we will post this. My Ginny will save it and post it on her grid, so that if at some point in the future you go through this, or someone you know and love goes through this, then this will be a tool that you can share with them.
And Pina, someone just asked a question on here that I think maybe would be good if we gave some clarification on. Someone asked what white knuckling it means.
Thank you. English is not my first language, so sometimes I forget that we also have participants that have that. English is not their first language. So when we do this, like through life, this becomes white. There's tension, and these are knuckles. So white knuckling is when we go through this. So being able to release that and just have a sense of softening a tough experience, instead of going through a tough experience like my boy got cancer. How do I just soften through it?
Yeah.
So instead of being stressed through the whole experience, how can I be more present?
Yeah.
So we will go through, we'll give you 5 simple rituals. We will give you specific tools. Let's dive in.
Great.
Let's do that. So what is anticipatory grief? And then feel free to chime in at any point. there's anything from your experience that you wish to share, if you see any other questions, because obviously you're
I'll be watching for
brilliant.
some questions too.
Feel free to interrupt at any time and we'll go through. You can supervise us. You're doing a great job with that.
This is Wellington.
Yes, he's Life According to Wellington. That's hence the name of my Instagram. He runs a great nonprofit bringing food and blankets to homeless pets in the street. This boy was found in the trash in the recycle center in Bakersfield. If you can see here, he's got a tooth missing. He's a street thug with a purpose. So, good boy. He's now 5 years old.
Yeah.
Yeah. His birthday's actually the same day that Levi got his angel wings.
Yeah, so we have some special connections, don't we?
Yes. Yeah, special day. Special day. That's the day he was found.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, no.
Now Winston's like, wait, what are we talking? Okay. So anticipatory grief and grief can be debilitating. They can be all-consuming. And oftentimes with anticipatory grief, it's almost brushed off because, well, he's still alive, or, well, she's here, and we don't have access to healthy coping skills. Positivity is a great approach to life, but it actually doesn't work with grief. It becomes an avoidance, and it ends up extending grief because we end up kicking the can down the road. We'll push it away. We get down the road. There it is. We push it away. He is also in heaven. She put it, bless his little soul, she put it beautifully, and she's actually in here in chapter 9. She said, each day is a struggle, but being able to understand this, she's on page 83, has helped me take the steps towards living with my grief instead of being consumed by it. And this is Lindsay Loki's mom. So the first thing we can do with anticipatory grief is when there is a diagnosis, or when we know maybe there isn't a diagnosis and the pet is 15 years old and you know that it's touch and go, have a conversation with your pet. It seems California woo, but it's not. It's just really a connection with your pet, giving him or her permission to go. They live for love. They absolutely live for love. So if you have a moment with them and you just let him or her know.
Yeah, I mean, I know I had this conversation with Levi several times because he was sick for quite some time, but I would just have some quiet moments with him and hold him and tell him how much I loved him, but not to hold on for my sake, and that when he's ready, he's ready.
Yeah,
and
just like that.
Yeah, I think it's important to be able to connect with your animal and let them know that when they're ready, it's going to be okay.
Yeah, because they live for love and they hang on, they hide their pain, and they hang on for us longer than it might be good for them. So if you give them that permission, it's a very they don't need permission, but it's actually a very generous thing to do.
Yeah.
So that would be the first thing. A lot of pet parents know that and they do that. But if you didn't know that, so that would be the first step.
Yeah.
Another thing to do that a lot of pet parents don't is make arrangements for their cremation or their burial, or make the aftercare arrangements now while they're healthy.
Yes, I did not do this with my boy Levi, and I regretted it so much because when that time comes, you're so stressed and you're so sad, and there's so many things going on in your life that to try to arrange this horrible event is really traumatizing and tough. And I know in my situation we didn't have a lot of time, and we found a company that they ended up showing up 20 minutes early. And we did not know the doctor's name who was performing the euthanasia. And afterwards, because of COVID, when I went to collect his ashes, they were given to me in a bag on a stool because I couldn't go inside the building. All things I wish I had just done. I wish I had more time to do research ahead of the fact and really pick my people carefully and not do it when you're in the state of grievance.
And we don't know that because it is the saddest day of our lives when our pet dies. I mean, unless your kid has died, God forbid, or it's often when our first pet goes by then it's our saddest day, and we don't have the capacity to deal with credit cards, Yelp reviews, expiration dates, how much is an earn, and who's that. So we just go through what the vet recommends or what our friend recommends. And the easiest thing would be, I remember when my first boy, this is my third boy, I had Wellington Senior, I had Handsome, this is Wellington Junior. When Wellington Senior was diagnosed, from diagnosis to death, they had given him 6 months, but it was 14 days. He was gone in 14 days. In those 14 days, I was talking with friends, and they're like, should I make arrangements? Should I look at cremation versus burial? And a lot of people are like, no, he's okay. He's got 6 months, focus on spending time with him. And it was very sweet and kind, encouraging advice. But then 14 days later, when he died, I was left with shock and not knowing where to go, what to do, and having made no decision, PTSD and everything else that came with it. So I learned, as we do in life, I guess. At the time, I wasn't a pet grief counselor. At the time, I had a different career, and actually that moment shifted. I retired from that career and decided to go through this training and have this profession, because realizing pet parents don't really have as much support, and how painful it is, and how much oftentimes we grieve in silence.
Yeah.
And there isn't as much validation, because we hear, well, my grandmother died, or I had a miscarriage, I went through that, you can go through this, or my dad passed away,
Yeah.
This was just a cat or a dog. And
I think it's underestimated sometimes with animals, because people don't realize that you can, especially if you don't have children, that your animals become like your children.
Yeah.
And sometimes I think people underestimate how gutting it can be losing a pet, because they are family.
Yeah. So if you make those arrangements when they're healthy. So he was adopted when he was 1 year old. We got his insurance, his health insurance, which I think we are with, I forget, Embrace. It's on auto pay for 5 years, 4 years. So Embrace Pet Insurance, which I love. It's been a wonderful experience. Whatever pet insurance you love, go for that. And then the cremation.
Yeah.
It's already set. He's not going to go for any time soon. He's 5 years old. He's healthy. But it'll be just one phone call. Just like, as a 50-year-old, I have my will and trust. I have those arrangements made. It's a responsible thing to do as an adult, and it's a responsible thing to do for our pets. It's not weird. It's the last thing I would want to do when I'm sad and grieving, to have to deal with which cremation place and whatnot. And I had a friend, my dear friend Kavi, thank you very much for helping that day, who put everything on, different places of pluses and minuses, and then helped me call places, and then finally, dealt with the place. And we chose a Garden's Edge, which if you're in the LA area, I list them in here. Scott and Teresa, they deal with just the two of them, husband and wife. They're amazing. But if it's in, outside the LA area, just go through Yelp reviews, go through your friends. Don't just choose whoever your vet gives you, because your vet could be amazing, but you may want to choose a different cremation place, or a different, what's the word I'm looking for? Cemetery place.
Yeah, and this is all stuff that I wish I had known when I was going through this. So I want to be able to help people that are hopefully not going through this right now, but if you are, hopefully this can help. And also just good to have these things in place, so that when you are in this horrible state, decisions have been made, and it makes your life that much easier.
And then you can be present with your pet when they're ill, instead of having to deal with logistics and having to worry about who's on first and what's coming then and who's doing that. And so have a conversation with your pet, deal with the aftercare. When they're healthy, when they're good, that way it's just a phone call, or with me in the case of Scott, is just a text message. Yeah. If and when. And I told him he can never retire. Because he's that good, and I want to make sure that there's nobody else. And I sent all my clients, and Handsome was in his care, and Wellington Senior was in his care, and at some point, when it's your time to go. Not anytime soon. Okay?
No time soon.
No time soon. Now, 5 simple rituals for anticipatory grief that we can do to soften the experience instead of the white knuckling, instead of stressing through the experience. So the first thing is what I call the bedtime story. So let's say your pet is old or has been diagnosed with an ailment, and so you know that they're about to pass. The bedtime story is basically a tone of voice. Because they're old or they're about to pass, they're probably sleeping a lot, so the bedtime story can be done at 2 o'clock in the afternoon, it can be done at 9 o'clock in the morning, it can be done 4 times a day. It's just a tone of voice. It doesn't need to be a bedtime. And you want to tell them their adoption story. So there was once upon a time, this cute little Winston.
Hi, Winston. He's feeling left out.
He's a little mountain goat. And you tell your pet how you came about. There's a client literally who told me, my wife and I were on a road trip and we saw a shelter on the side of the road, and she said, let's pull over. And we pulled over, and I was like, why are we pulling over? And then they went in because they had been thinking about adopting a pet. It wasn't just completely out of the blue, but they came out with this beautiful Benny boy. And so, being able to tell, that adoption story, pulled over and we went to the shelter and we came out with you, fell in love with you immediately, or whatever the story might be, right? For him, he was found through Bark and Bitches, which we love. They're a rescue in the LA area. He was found through the recycle center in Bakersfield. And then I know that you were lured with food, right? Yeah. And then you got to a 75% kill shelter. That was no fun, right? So you get to tell them their adoption story. As a bedtime story, there's a tone of voice. The pet might be old, or they might be ailing in some way. Instead of you wondering, are they breathing? Is she okay? Is he alive? You actually have something to do with them.
Yeah, and this is something, again, I found Pina after my dog Levi's passing, so there's so much I wish I would have known beforehand. But this being one of those things, because so many times I would see Levi and he had a heart condition, so my concern was, is he breathing? Is he getting enough oxygen? And so it's so much of my time with him turned into me just watching him like a hawk to make sure he was breathing.
We do that.
And I wish I would have had a tool like this so that I could relax and be in the moment with him and relive a really happy time for both of us. Yeah. And just give us some nice moments of real connection and not just me being so concerned all the time.
And we can't help it because, as a pet parent, we have that instinct. But at least even for 5 minutes to be able to have a sense of connection and just kind of with them. So the bedtime story, their adoption story. Another simple ritual is what I call the love letter. And being able to write a love letter while they're alive. So you could be, let's say, on a couch like this, they're napping near you or behind you. He's literally asleep.
I know he is.
Hi. And maybe you have some candles, or however, there's some nice breeze. It's just a nice moment, extra cuddles. And you write a love letter to your kitty, to your bunny, to your puppy. It's not just doodles, okay? Don't discriminate. It's all pets. And in that love letter that you write for them, when they pass, then you can send a copy of that letter. Let's say, for example, with Scott, who from Garden's Edge came to pick up both Handsome and Wellington, my first 2 boys. I had that letter that I then provided with, specifically I'm thinking with Handsome, and I included, with Handsome I included a lock of my hair from the back here. With Wellington I think I included a piece of one of his toys, as long as it's not like plastic or it's not metal, something that would compromise the cremation process, so as long as it's natural fabric. It could be even a flower from your garden if they like to hang out in the patio area or in the garden by a specifically a specific corner that there is a particular plant. It could be a treat, like a little tiny favorite treat that you can include in that letter. Scott did that amazing that he actually read the letter to my pups before they were cremated. I'm not sure that every pet mortician will do that, but by sending the letter with them, a part of me, and in this case a part of you, will go with them, because a part of you will die with them. So let that part of you be with them, right? And maybe it doesn't need to be a lock of your hair. It could be maybe you cut a little corner from a favorite blanket, or send the whole blanket, as long as it's a natural fabric. It could be silk, it could be cotton, nothing synthetic, because that would compromise the cremation process. If they're buried, I think that would be okay. But check with the cremation place. Nobody will ever say no to a letter. If they will, that's not the right place. There's nothing wrong with a letter. They may not read it to them, but sending a letter with your pet, shrouded them, holding them, yes, absolutely. That would be a sweet ritual.
Beautiful,
And if for some reason your pet has already passed by the time you get this Instagram video, then you can still do the letter. It won't go with them, but you can, which is what we did together.
Yeah, so when I first started working with Pina after my dog Levi passed, she talked to me about getting a journal for Levi. And so this is my personal Levi journal, and I have some photos of him inside. But this is where you are so great at kind of walking me through writing letters to and from your pet that is passed. So I can write to Levi when I'm missing him, and then he can write to me as well. But it just helps feel like you can still communicate with them after they're gone. And so many of the other techniques and processes that you and I have talked about to help with losing a pet. It's so great to be able to have a journal to write those things down. And again, this is just like my sacred Levi space, and it'll only ever be used to speak to my boy. And it's just nice to feel like there's some open communication between your animal.
Maintaining a connection with our animals beyond the physical body will be important to healing once they're passed. So the letter is a start while they're here, and it continues after they're passed. And I don't mean becoming, crazy dog lady talking to a pet that's not here. I mean just a spiritual connection. The letter is one of the many healthy coping skills. There's a lot of healthy coping skills. There's also a lot of unhealthy coping skills, like avoidance or positivity or staying busy, distractions, deadlines, watching lots of documentaries, eating lots of ice cream or wine, or even more intense than that. So writing is also good because it slows us down when we are grieving, and anticipatory grief is a form of grief. Writing slows us down. We can't write as fast as we feel, as fast as we think. And the beautiful thing in being able to send something with them from us is that we feel they might be maybe less alone. There's definitely a connection. It's not for every pet parent, but it's a suggestion. So try it, and if you have a grieving friend, invite them to try it. What else? This is something that I know you loved. A special song.
Yeah.
Oh, I was gonna say, before we go into the special song, the letter in the early stages after they pass is something that you can continue ongoingly. I now do it yearly on the anniversary of my boys. So it kind of becomes a living letter. It's something that, it's not a letter that you finish. It's, at least for me, it's something that I continue yearly on their anniversary. Okay, so the song, a special song.
I love this idea so much.
So when Handsome, Wellington Sr. died without a goodbye. He died suddenly in the midst of a procedure that was supposed to help him, and he didn't wake up. So that's a whole other kind of experience that pet parents go through when there is no goodbye. And we could have a conversation about that in a whole other Instagram live. But with euthanasia, for example, with Handsome, and I had scheduled it, and it was time for him. Leading up to it, because it's not like you schedule it for 2 hours from now. We had scheduled it for a few days, a couple of days. It feels like a train is coming at you, at least for me. I don't know how it felt for you, but it was like, I don't know if it's bomb ticking. Or
for me, I just went to ticking time bomb in my head is how it felt,
And so instead of having this countdown, timer, experience, anxiousness, all of that, with choosing a song, I chose Amazing Grace. I recommend choosing a song that's not necessarily something that you hear on the radio all the time, so it doesn't get diluted by overplaying. Something that you go and find. It could be a Beatles song. It doesn't need to be a religious song. It could be whatever song is special between you and your pet. And while your pet is alive, maybe they're taking a nap near you, close the door, turn the volume up, not to disturb the neighbors, but up enough that it's just, you feel almost like a sound bath in that song. So with Handsome and I, leading up to his euthanasia, we had Amazing Grace. There is a Celtic version that I remember finding that was just so beautiful. It was almost like a sound healing in a way. And we would hear it once or twice together, and there was a connection to love and together that was deepening our connection together through that song. After he was gone, I would be able again to close the door, sit in that same spot, and reconnect to deepening. The Celtic version of Amazing Grace, it's not something that shows up. You have to go find it. So,
which I imagine might be good too, because then you're not going to get thrown off if it comes on at a restaurant or at a party and just be completely thrown by these things. Exactly.
So if you are in anticipatory grief, this is another tool that you can use, a ritual that you can have. Just once a day, 3 or 4 minutes. If you want to play it twice, maybe it'll be, 6-7 minutes. That would be good.
Yeah, and it's all about like we were talking about with the adoption story, the bedtime story, finding these moments to feel like you're deepening the connection rather than staring at them sleeping, just being so overcome with sadness and stress and this way. Exactly. You're allowing yourself to have some really beautiful connection time. Where it's just the two of you deepening that.
Yeah, because I remember we had a Sunday 1 p.m. appointment, and it was like Thursday, and we're like, tomorrow's Friday, today's the last Saturday, this is the last sunset. Like, it's constant countdown, and it's like, okay, and music has a state elicitation that nothing else has. A song can come on and you're instantly connected without even having to think about it. So it deepens that connection. Beautifully. So allow yourself to pick a song between you and your pet, and it'll give you a break from all the stress that anticipatory grief can cause. It'll give you a deepening of the connection between you and them. And then even if they can be on your lap, they can be napping. It's just a beautiful ritual with them. And then if they have been diagnosed, it's one of the things that we discussed that you said was really helpful to you is whether it's cancer or congestive heart failure. Are you thinking of going down? No, huh?
No.
He's like, maybe. If they have been diagnosed get diagnosed with cancer, congestive heart failure, anything that is a terminal diagnosis, you could shift the languaging of, instead of, he has terminal cancer, shifting it to he's living with cancer. Or she has congestive heart failure, like she's living with congestive heart failure.
Yeah, and that was some verbiage that I really wish I had had at the time. Because in my mind, my dog was dying of congestive heart failure every day. And that's just, you're not being present with your pet.
Right. If your dog is dying every day of congestive heart failure,
yeah,
how stressful
yeah,
is it for your spirit?
Yeah.
And then you obviously transfer that.
Rather than he's living with it, because
He's
that
living
makes me
with
feel
congestive
like,
heart failure.
yeah, he still has a life. He can still do things. He can still have good days. Versus when you're just telling yourself your pet is dying of something every day. It's
Yeah. And in my book, other than chapter 9 on anticipatory grief, when you go to page 42, the quality of life scale from Dr. Villalobos, not only she was our oncologist, but she's now retired because she's brilliant and she needs a break because she's really she's worked her whole life. But she was like the head oncology of pediatric US, like all of just queen of the world, that's what I would call her. But she created the quality of life scale, and with the quality of life scale, you can daily check. It gives you 70 points. It gives you 7 things to check. You check it daily based on the points. Just once a day, you write it down. If they're above 35, they get another day. If they're below 35 for 3 days in a row, you get to see what's fair to them. And that gives you something to gauge that is outside of your emotions, because Tuesday you could be like this, and Wednesday you could be like this, a little bit more stable. Thursday you could feel emotional again. So how do you know when is the right time to even schedule the euthanasia?
Yeah.
So the quality of life scale will help you, page 42, will help you on a daily basis, outside of the rituals, outside of the emotions, on even scheduling the right time for euthanasia. Oftentimes you don't have the time it has to be done right now. But when you have some time and you don't know when is the right time, the quality of life scale will help you.
Absolutely.
What else do we have? Visualization. We wanted to make sure we have some notes because we want to make sure to cover everything.
Yes.
Are you taking center stage?
Yes, it's all about Wellington.
Thank you for the hearts and the love, everyone. I hope this is being helpful.
Watching.
We hope this is being helpful. Okay. So maintaining and deepening the connection with your pet beyond the physical presence, all of these things that we're offering create a spiritual connection, is then going to help you in your grief afterwards. So in anticipatory grief, it's often overlooked or minimized. This is your time to actually help you deepen the time with them while they're here and help you for the grief that will then be your experience once they're gone. It can be truly all-consuming.
Yeah.
And understandably so. So these are some healthy coping skills to help soften the experience.
Yeah, and the visualization too is something that you can even do if, we've done it since Levi has passed.
Yes.
So it doesn't necessarily, if unfortunately you have lost a pet, this is still something that you can do now with them.
Yeah. So the visualization, the way that it works is whether you have a friend that's, let's say, they're going through it and you want to help calm them down, or maybe it's yourself because, let's say, you wake up and that day and your euthanasia is scheduled, or you wake up and you find that you have to schedule it because they just had another seizure and this can't go on, and you have to have mercy on them and help save them from this degenerating quality of life. The visualization is basically connecting, instead of just continuing to not hyperventilate, but like having a really hard time breathing, is just closing your eyes, finding the love that you have in your heart for your pet, which is probably everywhere in your heart. Finding that love, giving it a color, connecting with that color, and then sending that beam of light to your pet's heart. So maybe do that right now for a moment. Close your eyes for a moment. Find the love in your heart for your pet. find that beam of light. It could be a soft color, a bright color, and then send that beam of light and love to your pet and fill your pet's heart with that beautiful love and light, and then receive that love and light from your pet, and stay with it for as long as you need. Maybe that special song that we talked about before is playing in the background. So that visualization is something you can do for 30 seconds. You could do it for 2 or 3 minutes, the length of a song. If you have a friend that's going through it, let's say your mom lost her family pet, you can do that with them. If you have enough rapport with someone, you can certainly guide them through it.
And something that was so great, because we did this after Levi had passed, and my color for him was this beautiful, vibrant coral color.
Yes.
And you had mentioned, maybe get a blanket that's in that coral color.
Yeah.
So it feels like you have something
Then you have
tangible that's that color. And when I think about Winston, it's like a blue, and his little bandana is blue. So sometimes it can be nice to have something tangible that's in the color of this visualization of the love that you have for them.
Yeah, absolutely. One of the last things we wanted to cover, since we said we were going to give you 5 simple rituals, number 5 will be when we're crying, and tears are important. I have a whole chapter on why tears are healing, and I don't mean just metaphorically, because they are metaphorically healing. But tears are actually, what is my chapter on tears? Chapter 13, tears are healing. Tears are physiologically healing. There's a protein in them that actually strengthens our immune system when emotional tears are released. That protein is not in the tears that are from allergies or when we cut onions. That protein is released only with emotional tears, and it has an analgesic, which is a painkiller that strengthens our immune system. It doesn't necessarily feel good to cry in the moment. Like a yoga class may not feel good in the moment, but will feel good after, right? So a good cry is like that. Grief is like a pressure cooker. It has to come out.
Yeah.
And tears are a healthy way and a healthy processing. When a client says, "Oh, it's good, I haven't cried in 3 days," I'm like, "Oh, let's do a processing." Not good. No progress. Let's do a process and release those tears.
Yeah.
So when you're crying, the ritual might be to find a mantra. My mantra, because I was crying so much that my eyes were dry, I thought I didn't even have any more tears because I'd never cried so much, and then yet there was more tears. In that moment, I was like, I can't keep